Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. It is fantastic to see all you guys this morning. Good morning, Jan. Good morning, Lauren. Good morning, Dan, coming in from Buford. Looks like Lauren's coming in from Daytona Beach. I know Jan is right over by me, hanging out, probably in your nest, aren't you, Jan? Good morning, Shauna. Good morning, Susan. Yep, you're off to the airport, Susan. I know this because I know that Pepper's going to go and feed your fish and your kitties today. Let's see. Good morning, Tammy. Wonderful to see you here this morning. What a lovely morning it is. Yesterday it was such a pretty day, and today it looks like it's shaping up to be a pretty one as well. And so let's mirror the beautifulness of the weather around ourselves by also saying some beautiful things to ourselves. We're going to do it. We're going to do it the same way that we do every morning. I'm going to pull a card off the top of the deck. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation on that card, and we are going to respond out loud together. I am that affirmation. Let's declare these things boldly today. Let's recognize that we do have the right to say good stuff about ourselves. Good morning, Anita, and that is our that you know that that loving ourselves is our birthright. All right, so I'm going to pull a card off that top of the deck. Let's have some fun and declare together that today I am free. I am free. I release attachment and embrace possibility. So I am free. I release attachment and embrace possibility. Are you free? You are free. You release attachment and embrace possibility. Now I'm going to write that down in the chat because I am free. I release attachment and embrace possibility. Of course, Jan and Lauren have already beat me to it. All right, so I am free today. I release attachment and embrace possibility. In order for us to become what we desire to become, we have to release the attachment to who we are right now. In order for us to grow into the people that we are becoming, then we must release the things that we have previously clung to. In order to grow, we must leave behind the things that keep us stagnant. And so you are free, and you release attachment and embrace possibility. When I take a look at the things in my own life, the stuff that's really important to me, I realize that all of the things around me are a manifestation of who I once thought I was, not who I am being right now. But this is, everything that's around us is like a trailing metric. So a trailing metric is basically something that doesn't really change until after something else changes. And so, it's basically like a trailing metric or a trailing indicator, I guess would probably be an even better way of saying it. But basically, a trailing indicator is something, an indicator that shows up after we've already made changes. And so all of the things that are in our lives right now are the sum of the choices that we have made. And the choices that we have made have been choices where we have decided to hold fast to somebody that we were in the future. This is a good thing. This is a healthy thing. It's healthy for us to reach out for the things that we desire. And yet, it's also healthy for us to release attachment to the ideas about who we used to be. As we release that attachment, we get to grow. I remember that when I was younger, I had lots of ideas about who I was, lots of ideas about myself. And in the end, these ideas were also keeping me stuck and stagnant. These ideas that I had about me were keeping me small. They were keeping me in a place that I didn't actually desire to be. I just felt like that's who I was. And so I didn't know how to make a change because I thought, well, I've been doing it this way for my whole life, and it's working after a fashion. And when I recognized that I was attached to my own self concept, that I was attached to, playing this role, being this guy that I had decided that I was going to be a long, long time ago. When I recognized that I was attached to that, that was the first step to releasing it and embracing the possibility of who I might become. Because we all go through life and we find things that work for us. I remember that, when I was on the cusp of becoming an adult, I was probably about, 15, 16, 17 years old, something like that. Just about to become, just about to reach the age of majority. I remember being very worried that I was going to screw up adulthood. I remember being very worried because I was like, well, what if all the choices that I've made up until this point are not have not prepared me for it? What if what if all kinds of bad things happen to me? What if I end up homeless? What if I end up drug addicted? What if I end up having, just making bad choice after bad choice? And it really concerned me, in those formative years when I was like, 15, 16, 17 years old. And even when I was like, in my, from 18 to early 20s, I was still worried, even though I was stable, even though that none of these fears were coming to pass. I was still scared. I was still like, well, what happens when the other shoe drops? Okay, fine. I'm I'm doing okay now. I'm gainfully employed now. I seem to have a career going on. I seem to be saving money. Okay, fine. I'm getting out of debt. Okay. I'm paying my rent. I'm paying my bills. But I was still scared. I was still very scared that something would fundamentally change, and that I would, and that all the stuff that I found out that was working after a fashion would stop working. And in the end, I had I had built this whole life that was predicated around me playing it safe. I built this whole life around me just being like, well, this is the stuff that works. And even though I don't like it all that much, I still have to do it. I have to do it because I know that it works. And changing, releasing attachment to this thing, embracing the possibility of what might work better was terrifying for me. And I remember very distinctly when I decided that I was going to release that attachment, when I decided that I was going to embrace the possibility. I was living down in Costa Rica, and I had left my career at that time because I was scared that I would die doing that job. I was scared that I would just continue to do it until the day that I died. And so I was like, I need to make some kind of a change. But at the same time, I was still living in a fear paradigm. We can release attachment without embracing possibility. We can release attachment because we know that releasing attachment is good for us and still live in mortal fear about what's coming. But I remember the moment that I decided to release that attachment and to embrace the possibility. I was living down in Costa Rica. I was doing some house sitting for a friend of mine who does missionary work down there. And I remember just taking stock of my life. I had nothing but she was gone for probably about a month or so, and I was just house sitting her house, and she had a tremendous library. She was she was a missionary and a church planter by trade. That's what she did. And she had just a whole library of various spiritual books and various self-development books and stuff. And I remember that I was just perusing through her library, and I remember that as I was reading these books, and I don't even remember which book it was that I was reading, but I read a book that talked about attachments, and it basically was just talking about how we tend to figure out what works in life and then just do that, and then we ultimately hamstring ourselves because we are afraid of taking that risk. We are afraid of where we're going to land, even though what we're doing currently isn't working. Or should I say, it did work just fine when it was the best solution available to us. But choices that are made from a place of looking for the best solution that's available to us at the time are rarely the ones that will serve us for a lifetime. And so I decided in that moment that I was going to embrace the possibility. I took stock of my life and I said, everything that's not working in my life is not working because I am making it not work. Everything that's not working right now is not working because I have decided intentionally to continue being a certain way. I decided intentionally to continue being a square peg, even as life changed to being a round hole. Because if there's one thing I have learned about life, it's that it changes. It's that life itself continues to offer us new possibilities. It offers us new options every single day. And so as we release the attachment to who we think we are, we get to embrace the possibility of who we are becoming. And it might work out great and it might not. But either way, life itself will continue to offer us possibility after possibility after possibility. And there's a wonderful quote, and I wish I remember who said it, but I know it's a famous author. But the quote is that people who do not take risks tend to make two major mistakes a year, and the people who do take risks tend to make two major mistakes a year. And and when I consider my own life, yeah, it's absolutely true. When I've been playing small and doing the same stuff that I did all the time, I tended to make about two major mistakes a year. I made two decisions that were not good for me. And nowadays, I'm very much in the embrace possibility side of things. People ask me if I can do something, and I say yes before I even know if I can. Just because I'm interested in knowing what my other options are, and because I'm interested in learning and growing into a person who is capable of saying yes to that, is capable of following through on that thing. And in the end, I realize that I still make about two major mistakes a year, but the number of risks that I take is so much higher, and consequently, the amount of reward that I get is so much higher. And so, as we release attachment to who we used to be, let us embrace the possibility of who we are becoming. Let us embrace the abilities that we have. Let us recognize that we are the smartest people we've ever been, that we are the wisest, that we are the most experienced, and that the us that is making these choices, that the this particular point of consciousness in time that is making these choices is one that is more experienced and more wise than ever before. I'm not a 16-year-old that's worried about whether or not I'm going to be homeless anymore. You know, I can I can release attachment from that. And as I release attachment from that, I'm willing to take more risks. I'm willing to embrace better possibility. And let me tell you, my life has gotten nothing but better for it. And even when I've messed up, even when I've made a choice that wasn't good for me, even when I have moved in the direction of a possibility that ultimately did not pan out, I still have the incredible benefit of living that part of my life free. And so, whether things work out for us the way that we think they do, or whether they don't, it does not really matter. Because in the end, the point of life is who we are growing into. The point of life is what we are, it is the people that we are becoming. And let's not be in such a hurry to be finished either, because there's only one thing that's waiting for us at the end of our lives. And quite personally would like to put that off as long as possible. I'd like to release the attachment to who I was, embrace the possibility of who I am becoming, just like you are. And in the end, make sure that I live a good, long life that I'm proud of living one day when I leave this place. So I am free today, and you are free too. And we release attachment and embrace possibility. So, man, you guys have been blowing up the comments here, and I actually got quite a few people watching. So, thank you guys so much for those of you who share the broadcast. And let's see here. So, if you are watching this one for the first time, because boy, do I have a bunch of folks watching it today. If you are watching this for the first time, then just drop me a comment. Let me know that you're here. I will say good morning to you. But until then, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to Lauren and Dan and Shauna and Susan for being here. Thank you to Tammy and Anita. And let's see here. And who else has arrived? Good morning to you, Dan. So Mima, who is Anita, says, I love this one. It's speaking confirmation into what Armando and I have been discussing about our next steps in life. Absolutely. Absolutely, Anita. I know that you guys are in a really formative part of life where the kids are just about out of the house. And it's time for you to be thinking about what your next steps are. And I know that that's a really a big deal for you. So that's exciting. Susan says, "I'm very free as long as Pepper is around." Yeah, it is. It is good to find a good pet sitter, and Pepper's pet sitting services happen to be top notch. So I know how much she loves to do that work, and I know how much she loves all the animals. But she particularly enjoys hanging out with your cats and your fish. Let's see here. Shauna says, "I remember being worried too when I first saw my daughter." Shauna, that's a valuable perspective. When we I have never had kids, but I understand a lot of my friends have, and I've watched them all go through something very similar with with their kids. They realize, my goodness, I have this tremendous responsibility, and also I'm concerned that I might mess it up, or they might mess it up, or that all this work that I'm putting into this child might be for nothing. And of course, those fears are largely unfounded. But of course, that the weight of that responsibility is something that definitely can affect us. And in the end, they find their own way, the same way that we did. I mean, the world that my parents prepared me for is not the world that I'm living in right now, and the world that current parents are preparing current children for is not the world that those kids will end up living in. My parents couldn't even imagine the world that I currently live in, where I have the world's information at my pocket, where everybody is connected digitally more so than physically, where where you don't even hardly use money that's printed on paper anymore because it's all just zeros and ones in the bank account somewhere. And so the world that they prepared me for is not a world that existed when they were alive, or when they were growing up, I should say. Not a world that existed when I was a child, and certainly not a world that existed when they were a child. We grew up in vastly different worlds. And so the all the fears about am I going to raise the kid right? All the fears about is the kid going to make it in this world are not really something we have a ton of control over, because we cannot prepare them for a world that we don't know exists. In the same way that my parents couldn't prepare me for a world that they didn't know existed, and yet I have done just fine. Good morning, Tony. Thank you so much for sharing the wake up call. And Anita says the double A's, that's Armando and Anita, are preparing to release attachments and responsibilities. I'm sure that will make you feel absolutely amazing, and I fully support you guys in doing that stuff. So yeah, let's see here. Yeah, so I think that is about all the folks who have come by today to say good morning for the wake up call. So I will return tomorrow with another one of these things, and we will affirm some more good stuff about us. But until then, this is your daily reminder that you are free, and that you can release the attachments that you have in your life. When you notice that there is a part of your life that is dragging you down, you can release that, and you can embrace the possibility of who you are becoming. And as we do this together, we are ultimately remaking this world in our own image. We are changing the face of reality. We are changing the way this world operates for future generations. I know that because of the way that society is right now, it's easy to feel disempowered, or to think, oh, society itself is going to hell in a handbasket. Well, let me assure you that that's what everybody has thought all throughout history. And yet, in the end, society has never really gone to hell in a handbasket. The fact is that there have always been exceptional people who have steered society and made sure that we avoided disaster, made sure that we avoided all the craziness that would potentially threaten our existence as a species. And so, in the end, it is our job to build into the people around us. It is our responsibility to work tirelessly for that next generation, to make sure that the world that they are in is a better one than the one that we are in. Just in the same way that my parents did that for me. And I assure you that my life is objectively better than anything they ever could have imagined for me. So I am free today. You are free as well. We release attachment and embrace possibility. My beautiful friends, I'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. We will have another one of these. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the people who showed up. To those of you who commented, and also to those of you who didn't, I hope that the next time you catch the call, that you are willing to just drop me a comment and say hello. I'll say hello right back to you. All right, so I'll return tomorrow at 9 a.m. With another empowering affirmation. Until then, I love you and appreciate you. I think that you're amazing and beautiful, and I affirm that you are free. Talk to you tomorrow at 9. Until then, aloha from paradise.